Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on this lovely edition of Standpoint. I am your host, Veronica Dan Ikboy. It's going to be an exciting show today as we will be focusing on calls for restructuring and the various agitations from different parts of the country. Well, we do apologize for the mix-ups there, but before we get started, I have very spirited guests on my panel today. I have with me a rights activist and a public affairs analyst, Alesta Wilcox, and a lawyer, Ikechukwu Eke. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to the
Now, though agitations and the clamor for restructuring has been on for a while, that quick notice given to the Igbos, though now withdrawn by the Arewa youth in Kaduna State, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Calls for restructuring and even cessation heightened, but while some are demanding restructuring, others want outright cessation. Many say Nigeria has never been more divided along ethnic lines like it is today, with the Southeast pushing for Biafra, the South-South gunning for region of the Niger Delta, and the West seeking Oduduwa Republic. It's still not clear where the federal government stands on restructuring, though the president has said that such demands be channeled through constitutionally approved bodies like the National Assembly and the National Council of State. But if his disposition to the implementation of the report of the 2014 CONFAB is anything to go by, one might say the Buhari administration is not keen on restructuring and the practice of true federalism, which will see power decentralized at the center. So is the push for restructuring dead on arrival with this administration? Well, before we go to that question, let's start with, gentlemen, let's start with understanding what restructuring really is or what it stands, because so many people have different views about what restructuring is exactly. And so I will start with you, Ikechukwu. What does restructuring really mean?
Grammatically, literally, restructuring simply means changing the structure of a thing. Reconstructing the structure of a thing. That's what it means. So if we are calling for restructuring in Nigeria today, it would be playing the ostrich to say that it has no definition. It simply means that the present structure of Nigeria is not working, and therefore it has to be changed. The mode of changing would depend on the consensus built by people out there on the field. Every element within the Nigerian geographical space or political space would bring in its own idea of how it wants its own structure to look like, and all of them will be brought to the table and a consensus will be arrived. And where there are issues that may require voting, such votings will then be called for those areas. That is simply what restructuring means. Though some people would have the idea of what they would like Nigeria to be like. That is where people confuse it. When people start saying, I like Nigeria to be a 36 states situation, some people say, I want a regional, 6 regional situation. Yeah. That is where you start getting into the details. You're already jumping the gun. Restructuring is a situation where people come to the table in this kind of heterogeneous society and bring their respective views, what they want to have. And everybody, we coalesce it, and a consensus is arrived at. So long as it changes the present structure with a view to arriving at a better developmental structure for the country.
All right, let's get a feel of how what you make of restructuring for Nigeria.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to thank my colleague Ikechukwu for helping me with that clear cut definitions. Because before now, if you ask 100 people on the road what is restructuring, they will give you 100 different definitions. So people confusing the modalities to what they're asking for. And why some of us get so disturbed about it is because everyone was focusing on one thing: resource control, resource control. So that's what everyone was just talking about. But you see, if we're talking about restructuring, Nigeria has been going through restructuring since 1966. Let's say 1967. We're going through restructuring. We started from the we started from 2 regions and 1 federal territory, being Lagos. We moved to 4 regions, it was restructured. We moved to 12 states of the federation, it was restructured. We moved to 21 states, 30 states, 36 states. So at every point in time,
there was a restructuring
in one way or the other, we have always been restructuring Nigeria, all towards getting satisfying agitations, satisfying yearnings, and seeing how better we can develop and run the country. So that has been a constant thing about restructuring. And that's why I said the recent upheaval or the recent halubala about restructuring was becoming too myopic. And everybody was talking about resource. Resource is not only restructuring. We've moved from less than 200 local government to 770 something local government. We moved from a single, a parliamentary system of governance to a presidential system of governance. We will move from a 5 senator per state to a 3 senator per state. So at every point in time,
we have
always been restructuring.
Just that the focus now is just
like right now, the focus has shifted drastically and dangerously to maybe just either
we'll talk about the shift in focus when we return from the break. Stay with us. Yes, you're watching Standpoint, and joining us now is a rights activist and the spokesman of the Pan-Yoruba Social Cultural Group, Afenifere, Yinka Odumakin. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
All right, before we went on break, Alexa Wilcox was talking about a shift in focus, which has generated different agitations from the various regions, Yinka, and we would like to focus on that now, talking about some persons demanding cessation, outright cessation, and some saying that if you're not giving us a proper restructuring, we're having our own region. Speaking about the Yoruba nation, saying we want Oduduwa nation if you are not coming outrightly. How do we address, or how would you address all of this and the yearnings and calls for restructuring?
Thank you so much. Let me start from this standpoint of the question of that restructuring means different things to different people. And I think this was a confusion introduced by those who want to obfuscate. Restructuring does not mean 2 things to different people. The restructuring means only one thing. We want to go from a unity constitution to a federal constitution, which our founding fathers negotiated as independence. From the 1950 Ibadan Conference up to 1960 when we had independence, there were discussions and the agreement was that we should have a federal constitution. We had the federal constitution in 1960. The Republican constitution in 1963 was the federal constitution, essentially, until the military struck in 1966 and destroyed our federalism. Therefore, the call for restructuring has been since that time. And therefore, and what we have been doing between 1966 and now is not restructuring really, it's gerrymandering. Because I heard Alistair talking about the fact that, we restructure here and there. I said, no, what was happening was gerrymandering. He said we had 4 regions in the First Republic, which was true. How did 1 region become 19 states and 3 regions become 17 states? How did we create, in the First Republic, before the First Republic, we had Lagos division, Sokoto division, and Kano division. Today, Lagos division is Kano state, is only Lagos states. Kano division is now 2 states. Sokoto division is now 3 states. These are gerrymanderings, unfair creation of states and local government, which are the core of the demand for restructuring. Now to the Ibadan conference. What we did in Ibadan was to call an assembly of Yoruba people to review our stance since 1950. Because in 1950 Ibadan conference, Yoruba voted for federalism. And it was to that Ibadan we returned last Thursday. And the Yoruba again agree that a multi-ethnic nation like Nigeria can only run effectively along federal lines. And that's what we voted for. And if you begin to hear Oduduwa Republic, it is not mainstream Yoruba. It is fringe people who are saying that those of us who are asking for restructuring are wasting their time and that they want a separate country. But that's not where mainstream Yoruba is now. Where mainstream Yoruba is that we can restructure this country along federal lines, and every section of Nigeria can live their happiness. And therefore, everything that we are talking about, either resource control, devolution of power, state police, all of them, they are all ingredients of federalism. People are not talking about different things. It's like you take your Bible, somebody read from Genesis, somebody from Isaiah, somebody from Matthew. You cannot say they are reading from different scripture. It's from the same scripture, different chapters. So all these things people are talking about is about federalism and not.
But we need to understand, you said that the mainstream Yoruba is for restructuring, yes, and the ones who are not the mainstream Yoruba are the ones calling for Oduduwa. Or how do you mean exactly? We need to make that point clear.
Yes, there are much more radical elements, especially among the young folks, who are saying that, you know, among the Yoruba, there's a proverb that says that if you want to catch a monkey, you should behave like a monkey. But some of those young people are now asking us that since all these years you have been doing like monkey, how many monkeys have you caught? That they don't have time for all this restructuring again. They want Oduduwa Republic. But we are saying that if we restructure Nigeria, it is the refusal to restructure that is giving vent to these separative feelings. Either those who are calling for Oduduwa Republic, either IPOB that is calling for Biafra, either the South people, all over the country today. Those who are happy with Nigeria as it is are those who are benefiting from the rot, who are taking advantage of the iniquity in Nigeria. Those are the people who are not saying that we must rearrange this country for a better nation. But
then, still with you, Yinka, you were quoted as saying that Nigeria must return to a proper federation as obtained in the 1960 and 1963 Constitution, which is said to be a far cry from the 1999 Constitution. Now, looking at the 1963 Constitution, can it bring back Nigeria to its nationhood?
Yes, because there are essential ingredients of federalism in those constitutions, 60 and 63 constitutions. In fact, when you take the 63 constitutions, you find that there are 5 constitutions in that document. The Federal Constitution, Western Constitution, Midwest Constitution, Eastern Constitution, and Northern Constitutions. And on the exclusive list today, there are fewer items than you have in the 1999 Constitution. So, it's not that those constitutions are perfect, but they move us closer to federalism than the current unitary constitution that we call 1999 Constitution, which we did not make, which was the constitution made by Sani Abacha to succeed himself. And when he died, they went under his pillow, picked up it, give it to Nikitobi. Nikitobi ran around for a few days. As at the time Obasanjo was sworn in 1999, there was no clean copy of that constitution. They were still tinkering with it. So how can you say that that's our constitution? And it's now saying we the people. Who are the people? So essentially, what we have obtained today, most of the conflicts we have in Nigeria today, their root cause in this 1999 Constitution. Even the discussion we're having now, our underdevelopment, all over Nigeria, go and look at the resource map. We have mineral resources all over Nigeria. In fact, more in the north than in the south.
All right.
But that question says that only federal government can touch it.
All right, I come to you now. How do we start that, Ikechukwu? Where do we start from? You know, you try to break it down for anybody to understand. So where do we start from looking at the heterogeneous nature of Nigeria?
Thank you so much. Where we start from is very simple. Go to the foundation of Nigeria. That is the honest place to first start.
When you say foundation, what do you mean?
The fact that we are Nigerians and we are heterogeneous. Heterogeneous portends, it simply means that there are different people that on their own can stand as nations. That's what heterogeneity means. It obtains in all, apart from America that people came from outside, all federal systems are based on heterogeneity. So you go back to the foundation and ask these people, do you really think that you should be in this country, Nigeria? That is the pure restructuring. That is the first step if you define restructuring. Because, you know what? If you accept that a structure is not good, as a building engineer, the first thing, or as an architect, the first thing you look at is whether the foundation is good enough. Then the architect will also look at his own architectural plan, whether the building was according to his architectural plan. So we need to look at the foundation of Nigeria. Then the architectural plan, the thought process that envisioned Nigeria, is it the same way that it should be according to that thought process as it is today? We must ask that question. When we pass that, when we go beyond that question, we will attack the next fundamental question. First of all is that you give legitimacy to the people. When you give legitimacy to the people, then the people will now give legitimacy to an institution, an instrument. It is from that instrument that the structure itself can be built. And what is that instrument? The instrument is the Constitution. So when you address the fundamentals, the foundation, then you go to the Constitution and make the Constitution, give it the imprimatur of the people, the autonomity required of a Constitution. That is, make it people's Constitution. We accept that we want to be constituted in this light manner. Yes, that is the first, that is the second level, that is the second level step. When you do that, it is in addressing that Constitution that some of these principles that Mr. Yinka is speaking of now will come in. I am agreeing to the 1960, now we've gone beyond the basics of fundamentals, the basics of restructuring. I am agreeing when we now go to start to ask the question, what form of restructuring should we undertake? I am agreeing that we need a true federalism. I am agreeing that the 1960 Constitution was a good document that reflects the heterogeneous nature of Nigeria. What I will only add is what Dr. Bafemi Awolowo asked for in the preparation of the 1960 Constitution, to ask that any constituent unit that intends to go its separate way should have the right to so do under a referendum. It should be inserted in that Constitution. I would like that is the step. And when you do that, my dear, it will be very difficult for constituent units to even want to take advantage of it. Because a bigger market of Nigeria, a bigger entity of Nigeria is more attractive where there is justice, where there is fairness, where there is freedom, where there is all manner of equalities and equities. It will be difficult for people to choose smaller entities where their own brothers may oppress them over a bigger entity where their market would have larger markets. But you don't force it, you don't decree it. And that is where I come most respectfully to the prevailing sentiment or statement by the leaders of today that the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable. It is a most insulting, most disrespectful statement to the sensibilities and sensitivities of natural human beings. Because a natural human being, both individually and corporately, has the right to decide with whom he or she associates with. You take it from the infinitesimal level of individualism to the bigger level of communalism. A community will decide with whom it wants to establish relationship with. So the statement, unity is not negotiable, is insulting. You don't force unity. You build it. Perhaps I will stop here and we'll proceed further.
All right. I see you were smiling, but then some persons that have come up with this call, drumming up this call for restructuring, are said to be persons who felt hard done by the last, let's say, the 2015 elections, and so it is born out of selfish interests.
I wouldn't totally toe that line, even though there are elements in it. But for the purpose of this discussion, so that the public might get a better understanding of some of the issues that prevail us as a nation. Yes, that is part of the issue, that's part of the issues, but of course that's not the totality of the issues. I remember when I was growing up as a child, I'm sure none of us were born in 1960 or 63, even when this condition were existing, or the thought processes or the thought in the minds of Obafemi Awolowo, Azikiwe, and Sadwana, and all whatnot, in when they were negotiating about those issues, and we read them, get our own understanding, and begin to propagate based on them, which is our legitimate right. I remember when I was growing up in the primary school, what we used to hear then was, to keep Nigeria one is a tax that must be done. That was the Go On slogan during the war, and then they said, go on with war Nigeria. That's the meaning of go on with war Nigeria. And so we all bought into that. And it was convenient as at then that we in the South, been dominating in most of the in most of the, so to say, juicy part of Nigeria. It was quite good for us. You know, I remember when I started my working life in one federal institution, not a parastatal. Virtually all the northern states were being headed by Southerners, both as branch managers or accountants, because they didn't have the manpower to fill those positions, you know, and it was convenient for us. And each time we want to make analogy as to injustice in terms of a creation of states and creation of local government, the most that comes to our mind is Lagos and Kano. But we forgot also that there's a state called Oyo that has 33 local governments. And yet, Lagos has 20. We also forget that there's a state called Imo that has 28 local governments as we speak. And the size of Imo is not even the size of half of Oyo State. Akwa Ibom has 31. My dear River State, bigger than Akwa Ibom in population, has 23. So those imbalances will be there. And we also forgot that there is a kind of stretch of landmass in the north. And backed up with population, because I keep telling people something. Sometimes we say the north is not populated. And I ask the question, an average northerner has 4 wives minimum. Some has, I remember, there was a program Yakasai talked about. He said he had 24 children. Yinka talked on that same program the next day or about, and I'm not sure Yinka has up to 5 children. But somebody has 20 something. So sometimes we don't want to put these things in perspective and see the reality. But we pick them, cherry picking, and then we make an analysis about them. We have come a long way from 1960. We have come a long way from 1963. We are only considered on 1999 constitution. That was 1979 constitution, held by a constituent assembly, headed by a Southerners. Is it Akinji who? Abafemi was in that conference. Correct me, Nika, if I was wrong.
I will know what the Pacific.
But okay, but I think it's Akinji who headed that constitution.
Rotimi Williams.
Rotimi Williams, sorry, thank you. Late Rotimi headed that constituent assembly, and the 99 constitution was an offshoot, almost in pari passu of the 1979. But we don't talk about 79. We talk about only 99. Now, my brother made some very good analogies, which is talk is cheap. Intentions are very, very subjectional. Today, why would somebody be thinking of, and I'm happy that Yinka talked about mainstream Yoruba and renegades.
No renegades.
Okay.
As fringe. Not
Fringe. Okay, sorry for my use of word. The fringe, the fringes. And if there's anybody that has been, if there's any group that has been so consistent in Nigerian projects, I think it's the Yorubas. Half of my life now, I've lived it in the West. Over 22 years now, Ibadan and Lagos. So that seems to be my home. I have been an Awoist right from 1979, when I wasn't even of a voting age. Okay. So I have seen the pressure to, how the Yorubas have soaked in. Because there was a time they were dominating all over. And like I told them, when I was in a company, Yorubas were almost like all the branch managers in the north. You know, but what has changed all of a sudden? Yes, things change, people grow up, a new frontier has come up, and that is why restructuring will keep retuning the system. Nigeria is not the only country with multi-ethnicity. Our next door neighbor, Ghana, has various ethnicities too, that make up Ghana. But I tell you something, I have never heard of the Volta nation, the Ashanti nation, the Ga nation. They are there. If you go to a place like Malaysia, I never know that Malaysia had different tribes until I visited Malaysia in 2010 to know that there are the Chinese, there are the Malays, there is the Indians. And these people, you don't hear them talk of this thing. Everybody's looking at how the common good. All we talk about Nigeria is how one section is dominating, how the other section has. The same country that we ran from 1966 till 1979, and some major developments, even under that so-called imperfect constitution, where men were more honest to the nation, where even with the size of the budget of the Western region is far less than the budget of Oyo State, yet there was further delivery of goods and services. So if men, before we talk about, and that's why I'm not a fan of Obasanjo, but I need to, so that's why I support what Obasanjo said. Men and women of good in Nigeria need to restructure their minds and their brains and their responsibilities. It is only when we are committed, even if to our village, when that commitment is there, for the better goods of it, then we can talk about if we want to break. If we do that under this condition, I tell you, our case will be worse than that of Somalia. Okay, let's come to you now, Yinka. You were part of the past administration's confab, and we'd like to get a feel of the resolutions reached concerning federalism.
Okay. Well, thank you. Before I go to that, let me just quickly
Address what?
some issues. In terms of, first of all, if you talk about the fact that the early lead from the South in the years of independence, about manpower and the rest of them, it's not an accident. Everybody made investments in what concerned them. If you talk about the Yoruba, the first Yoruba lawyer was qualified in 1865. So you cannot use that as a basis to say, oh, it was domination. It was about investment in education, contact with civilization. Then, if we move on to the fact that, yes, landmass. First of all, the question of local government ideally should not be a federal matter. If not for the aberration in Nigeria, that we are using all these external things to go and take advantage, and that's why you have skilled numbers. Local government in any federation is for state matters, federation matters, not federal matters. And you talk about, say, population, land mass, and the rest of them. Nigeria is a funny country. Land, population, these are factors of production. If you have more land than I have, you have better advantage than me. You should cultivate that land. I've always said it. The land mass of Netherlands is not up to the land in Niger State. Netherlands is the second highest exporter of agriculture in the world after the USA. What are you doing in the land in Niger State? Every end of the month, come to Abuja, give us more money because we have more land. Population, we say you have 200 million people. How many of those 200 people today are human capital? And marginals are not human capital. Yeah. Beggars are not human capital.
Those are facts.
So we should, if you have more population, send them to school, equip them with the skills, put them on the mining fields, construction area, let them be working and go to GDP. Until you do that, those population amount to nothing. I agree. The population that can in this modern world is human capital. I agree. Right. Now to the 2014 conference, I think we took about over 600 resolutions at that conference. And for the constitutional matters and most of the Supreme Court, they are unlocked for federalism. In fact, at that conference in 2014, I remember I stood up on the floor of that conference to say that if the prices of oil should crash, many of the governors who are flying jets all over the place, they will look for Okada to ride. Today, if you go around any street in Nigeria now, you don't hear the signing of any governor again. They've all removed their signing because they don't want people to know that governors are passing. Some are owing 10 months' salary, 12 months' salary, and that they cannot pay. Why? Because of this centralization. Because of the unity constitution that we run, that says states cannot mine their resources. Only federal government can do. And federal government, all it does is sit down, collect oil rents, VAT from Lagos, Ogun, and other places, distribute it. When they finish that, say, come and take bailouts. And this is a federal government that's producing nothing. The federal government in Nigeria today, the only land that the federal government has is FCT. Pure water, they don't produce in that place. So, so that conference now look at this, this thing is not sustainable. What should we do? We made a fundamental recommendation that if we are implemented, we will not be in this session today.
What was that recommendation?
We said that let us take mines, mineral resources, everything, form the exclusive list and bring it to the vetting units. And that for a period of 5 to 10 years, let's use 5% of the federal budget to explore these mineral resources in every state of Nigeria. But in the intervening period, we may still continue with this distributive economy, which is not sustainable. But that when we look at the resource map for Nigeria, if we had done that, there is the capacity of moving Nigeria from a 6 trillion naira annual economy to a 50 trillion naira annual economy, which I not do now. Now, the 6 trillion economy is too small. Even if we stop corruption here today, let's say nobody is stealing 1 naira, the economy is still too small for 200 million people. In 2015-2016, May to May, Nigeria made about $3.9 billion from oil and gas. That was the year oil crashed. A far cry from what Disneyland made in 1 year. Fun and entertainment sports. So the economy is small. The GDP of Ireland with 5 million people is bigger than our own or 200 million people. So if we had moved away from this distributive economy to a productive economy, most of the crisis we have in Nigeria today will not have it. No. We will not have recession. We will not have a situation where now where many workers are working without being paid. And so many decisions are taken along federal lines. The question of local government that was at that conference, we resolved it. We decided on state police. that the states cannot make laws and not have the without to implement those laws. So, but are not recognizing those decisions or realizing that we have a structural problem and deal with it. It's what's the problem. Now, to what my friend is Alex and our uncle, Obasanjo, that we have to restructure our minds. It's non sequitur. when you restructure your mind, what happens? It's like you are saying that go and use your money to buy hard software, but you don't have a hardware. When you get software, you have to put in hardware. The mind, the body, everyone that rest, these are software. But you need a hardware, nationhood. That's what I have to resolve first before we start to put software inside it.
All right, now let's focus on IPOB and their push for Biafra. Things have gone sour in Abia State as we speak, with clashes between the army and IPOB that have claimed some lives and left many critically injured. President Buhari, in his first address to the nation after returning from medical vacation, vowed to deal with irresponsible elements threatening the unity and stability of the nation.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far. The country must remain one and united. Nigerians' unity is settled and not negotiable.
Well, many say that remark was aimed at IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu with the launch of Operation Python Dance 2 in Abia State, the heart of the Biafra struggle and home of Kanu. Is the president making good his promise? I'll start with you, Ikechukwu. Is the president making good his promise with what you have seen happening in Abia?
Absolutely, he's making good his promise, and his promise is absolutely extrajudicial. It's outside of rule of law. It's outside of human rights. Listen, the international definition of human rights upholds individual liberty over and above intentions of the state. And that was the reason why we saw what happened in Hitler, German Nazi period. The German Nazi period stepped down on individual rights and upheld the right of the state. And you saw how Hitler used the instrumentality of the state through laws. There were laws, there were regulations, there were orders validly made by the government of Germany at that time. And those orders simply meant that Jews were exterminated, Europe was to be overtaken. Those were lawful orders. But the United Nations came around and redefined what rule of law should be. That it is not what the state defines as law, but would balance that definition of rule of law or law against human rights. So the president is to just answer your question directly, frontally, is making good his promise, and it is most unfortunate because nothing. We are on the table now. We are talking. We are bringing out our opinions and views, yes. And each of us, one way or the other, is trying to understand the other person's views. At the end of the day, we have a consensus. This person doesn't want this person wants this. We know how to deal with each other. We respect each other, and it is reciprocal. That is the approach the president ought to have adopted. And it was unfortunate that a president of a nation would leave the nation for close to 5 months, I can't remember, other than some days, and come back. And the only thing that he was addressing was just simply the agitations of a group of people, forgetting the economic hardship that was prevalent in the country when he left and that was still prevalent when he came back. Nigeria, let me tell you, Nigeria went down in its budgetary provisions for the country. Mr. Yinka just said 6 million was little. It got even smaller, given the exchange rate. When we were having 6 trillion, when we were having 6 trillion budget, exchange rate was about 150. So you had more dollars comparatively. But now we are talking about 7 trillion. And that 7 trillion, you are having it at 300 and something naira. That means that the dollar available to you is much less, even when you were having a lesser naira value. I don't know if I'm making mathematical sense. Yeah. So in point of fact, our expenditure profile, the government ability to satisfy needs of the people has reduced drastically by half or more, even while the naira value of the budget has increased. Those are some of the things the president ought to have addressed. You see, there is no reason to face symptoms and forget the root causes of symptoms.
Of the symptoms.
Has causes and effects. It's a principle, old-time principle that has passed the test of time. What are the causes of what we are the agitations, and what are the effects? When you are looking at the effects of agitations and you do not address the causes, you are merely, like I used to tell people, you are merely running after the rats in the house, and you forget to block the loopholes. And after not blocking the loopholes, you still open the fish that has very nice aroma. Open that the rat outside will perceive it from outside, and you leave a microphone, so to speak, for the rat inside to inform the rat outside that there is fish here. Except to remove the fish and make the aroma less attractive and block the holes that the rat will come into the house from. The rats will continue to come in.
All right, Alistair, speaking about symptoms, some have said that IPOB is a symptom of restructuring. Do you share the same view?
Well, I completely share a different view. I completely reject that assertion. IPOB is a political jobbing organization invented after the 2015 election. You asked me a question as to the agitations. The Igbos are hardworking people that has taken their destiny into their hands and are making progress in all spheres of life. They may not have had the presidency, but they've had a very, very comfortable fair deal in this land. 9 years after the war, they produced a vice president, a speaker of House of Representatives, and others. So agitations are not strange. But when agitation is hinged principally, because if you look at the young man that is championing IPOB and Biafra succession and all whatnot, there was the same person in 2012 was demonstrating for a one Nigeria, asking the then President Jonathan to make sure that Boko Haram is crushed and that Nigeria must remain one. That was the same human being that was said. That said all those
what
things.
Could have made the song change?
And how come the song changed? The minute election of 2015 result came out, and the song changed that Nigeria become a zoo. Nigeria become a place that nobody can make progress except there's a succession. So this is where I have challenge. And this is where I have serious issues with some of the agitations for today. There are people who have been doing agitating for restoration of Nigeria, even for resource control. It started by Obong Victor Atta of Akwa Ibom during the Obasanjo days, talking about resource control. So they are people that have legitimate this, but not an organization like IPOB that is a political jobber, that is capitalizing on the fact that it is felt that maybe the party the Southeast believed in lost out of power, and therefore the whole team was crumbled. I'm talking about individual and corporate rights. I think we are 180 million. If our individual rights should go above national right, then that means there will be total catastrophe. I should come to this, because if my right is to overtake this building, then I should come here and take it away and carry you and take you from your husband, and that is my right. And so if that should go above the state right, no country will condone insurrection.
So are you saying what the government did
Yes.
by invading his house was right?
It was not an invasion. Now, when Kanu was arrested, when Kanu was having all this ranting, calling for armed struggle, asking his fellow, we went and addressing a Congress of Igbos in the United States, I told them to start contributing to buy arms. And even a woman was so scared, said, "You're asking us for arms at this time, what are we going to do?" It is all in the social media. So if somebody has the intention of carrying out an insurrection, that was how Boko Haram started. And unfortunate thing was, it was talk called, it's a APC propaganda against Jonathan and all what, and we allowed it to fester. If we allow this to fester, the good people of the Southeast that have been so consistent in their daily living and in their peaceful life and everything will suffer, and therefore the entire country will suffer. And we cannot allow that. No country will allow insurrection. You're hosting flag, carrying out an anthem, bringing out a secret service, and a country and a president should sit down as what the constitution to uphold the unity of Nigeria and the constitution, and they will sit down. It is impossible, and that would be an impeachable offense against the president if he should not do that, if action should not be taken. Now, is the action, is the quality, is the action commensurate to the issues on ground? That is a sort of another discussion. Of course,
that's what we are trying to understand.
When Army goes into a situation, there is collateral damage, which everyone will condemn. But that Kanu should flat. My brother talked about extrajudicial, anti-judicial. I'm talking about you are given a bail condition. You flouted every
Every-
aspect of that build condition. Not only flouting that, you go a step further by creating new offenses. No government will sit down and fold his arm and said because somebody
right.
don't want to upset the apple cart.
Let's
the
come to
president
Yinka
comes
now.
back
We need to
and he's
because
doing the right thing.
I can see he's itching to say
Yes.
something. Talk about this. Let's look at how the government has handled the situation so far, and because some have said that this is a political agitation that needs a political solution.
Absolutely. Let's clear some misconceptions. That somebody raises a flag, it's not a criminal offense. My state of Osun, we have an anthem, we have a flag, we have everything. And that does not mean that's an insurrection against Nigeria. A flag is a piece of cloth. I can have my personal flag and put on my car. Now to the question of, let's get it very clear. I've stated this and I'm saying it again. Not that we approve
Of what he's doing.
Kanu's utterances at all.
Absolutely.
He has insulted the Yoruba where I come from.
Everybody.
No, I'm coming.
Everybody.
Yes, a lot of time. But we must separate issues. This issue is not about Nnamdi Kanu. It's about the rights enshrined in the Constitution. It's about the principle of self-determination, which our president went to the United Nations to defend last year, when he spoke that the United Nations recognized the right to self-determination. So, and to think that you can use jackboots, tanks to crush this kind of feelings is totally mistaken. We went on out war against Biafra 67 to 70. We killed 3 million people. The agitation is back today, which means that this is a state of mind. It's not things you can just use tank to crush. In 2015, after I finished the elections, Mark Selling, he wrote an article in the New York Times. He looked at the map of that elections and said what Nigeria needs most now is a reconstructive surgeon, not a bulldozer. And don't forget, earlier I said, yes, Kanu has threatened, he's going to buy gun, he's launching money for raise gun, he's doing else. He's here to be shooting anybody. Now, as at the time Yaradua, in spite of his at the height of his illness, went to meet Tompolo in the creeks to ask him to lay down his arms and do amnesty. Those guys were already bombing all kinds of things in that place. Kanu has yet to do that. And that is why, if you believe in social engineering, you could still have used engagement to resolve these matters. Because at the end of the day, move all your tanks there, do all the Python dances. There is, at the end of the day, we still have to talk about these issues. So why go to war when you can discuss? And he said Kanu has violated his bail terms. He has a date in court. Go to court, revoke his bail. Why do you have to go and carry guns and the weapons, the tanks they took there, they are the tanks America gave to them to go and use to fight Boko Haram. And now this is how we started Boko Haram. We are forgetting that Yusuf and his followers, they were just their own organizations going about demolition on the streets. When we kill Yusuf, some people thought that was the end of the matter. 7 years after now, we are now taking money. We are buying gas back from Boko Haram. We are swapping criminals with them. When we could have engaged those boys and nipped it in the bud. And I was thinking what a friend of mine wrote on social this morning, that this Python dash thing under Obasanjo, Victor Malu, he had to have a Python dash Inodi. He killed people and was justifying it. As God will have it, 2001, the Python moved to his village. Yes. Enter his house, and the Python killed 3 people in his compound. He now started shouting, how can you be attacking civilians and the rest of them? So we hope, you see, Nigeria, I'm sorry to say, sanctified common sense is in short supply here. Otherwise, we could have handled this in a different approach. What we are doing now, okay. And let me make a mistake of it. 2017 is not 1966. There are what we are doing in Southeast now, if you don't nip it in the bud, if you begin to already what happened now by one day went across 3 zones. There are problems in Port Harcourt, in Jos, all over the place, in Kano. In fact, in 4 zones in under 48 hours. And that's what you are playing with. If you think that if you start a war in the southeast, it will be limited to that place like it was done in 67 to 70, you are mistaken. And that is why what we need at this time most. And I think I want to agree with former President Obasanjo, we don't often agree, that we have to engage the situation, find a way to resolve it politically. Let's not try the military, because the coalition that fought the last civil war is no longer there. If you start a war in the southeast now, don't be surprised that the people are waiting for an opportunity for able to opt out of this agreement. You scatter the whole country.
Quickly,
let us engage it and resolve the matter.
Quickly, we have Nduka on the line from Kano. Nduka, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon. It's
good afternoon. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to thank the man close to you by your immediate left. He has nailed it. He nailed it in several points, and God bless him for the opinions he's raised. Also, I want to say that, yes, the way and manner at which this the Kano guy is going about everything is entirely wrong. But that does not mean the way the federal government is still handling the whole issue is entirely right. No. As I rightly pointed out there in United Nations Charter, which is even on his way to, which I think Mr. President is going to attend. But now we can't be hypocritical. Look at Buhari, Yar'Adua, before he died. God bless his soul. His approach to the Niger Delta issues was so perfect that he got it resolved, even for at the time being, at the moment. So I don't all this Python dance, Python joke, Python whatever it is, it's uncalled for. Why is there? There's no need for war. There's no need for sending military troops there. These are issues that can be handled over a dialogue table.
All right, thank you very much, Nnamdi. Thank you for your contribution. Sorry for mixing up your name. So I come to you now, Ikechukwu. Let's look at how the governors, that's the Southeast governors, has been wading into the matter. I think yesterday the prescription on Nnamdi Kanu saying that they should make their intentions clear to them. But then how would you see how they have reacted?
The governors are part of the problem. Absolutely. They are part of the problem that we are encountering, we are seeing today. It is their failed leadership that has resulted, the vacuum that they created that's resulted in all of this. You know, in response, direct response to their latest announcement of proscribing IPOB, they don't have that power. It is null and void. The governors are not, we are not under military regime. IPOB is existing under fundamental rights provisions of the Constitution, freedom of association. That is strict until you get to a court, and the court would say, yes, this is an organization that is illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional. Right. Then you can you can then respond to that as a governor. For now, their announcement is neither here nor there. Please.
All right, quickly, before we continue, we have Femi calling from Ogun State on the line. Femi, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, go ahead.
Please, I want to ask Mr. Dumasi, that man that's very close to you. I want to ask him, Mr. Dumasi, are you saying, Mr. Dumasi, I'm telling you, my name is Femi from Ogun State. I'm able to speak in Yoruba land. I'm high state in Yoruba land, 25. You know, I want to ask Mr. Dumasi, I'm looking at him now. Are you saying that can you capitalize Nigeria before Nigeria government should react? What are you trying to insinuate? You say you are a Yoruba man. Somebody said Nigeria is a Jew. Are you now saying what I said? What he said was right? What I'm trying to tell Nigerians? What the military said to the youth? What the military said to other segments of the nation? All
right, Femi, we can feel your pulse, but maybe you just quickly clarify.
You should calm down and listen.
Maybe you are the one that he attacked.
Yes. You should listen to what we are saying. We are talking common sense here. We are not saying that what Kanu is doing is right. All we are saying is that there are better ways and approaches of handling this matter. You don't have to create a war situation.
Absolutely.
You don't. If you want to argue, police should even go after him, not the military.
No, yes, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
You see, Veronica, you see what Nigeria needs, a counter-intelligent approach. Kanu is using rhetorics, narratives to win the hearts and minds and souls, spirits of people, whether you call them touts or not, but they are in their millions. Yes. What the government needs is counter strategy. intelligent strategy to also win back the minds of these people. But you see that instead of doing that, the government is now even punishing the same people that it should win over. So
I'll have to hold you because we have Haruna on the line from Adamawa. Haruna, are you there?
Yeah, I'm on.
All right, go ahead with your contribution quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, good afternoon to you all.
Good afternoon.
I'm Haruna Gambo calling from Adamawa State. I'm from the northeast part of this country, and you know what happened to the northeast from this Boko Haram issue and the rest.
Haruna?
Yeah, I'm still on.
All right, go ahead.
You see, what this Ikechukwu is saying is something that I'm not comfortable with. What I'm trying to say here is,
Haruna?
in Maiduguri, this Mohammed Yusuf started like this, and because the federal government refused to do something about it, and that is why we're having this problem now. Are you trying to tell, is he trying to tell us that we should allow Nnamdi Kanu to continue doing what he is doing?
All right, thank you, Haruna. I think we need to really make things clear here.
Yes, we didn't say that what Nnamdi Kanu is doing is correct.
Yes.
You must differentiate it.
Sure.
Even Mr. Yinka here, I thank him so much for his expositions. He even said that he gave the example of Yusuf, who was shot, just like what the present military wants to do with Nnamdi Kanu. That is the idea, to use force against them. It is the force they used against Yusuf that saw Boko Haram become the monster it became. Instead of them to have adopted dialogue from the onset with Boko Haram. So that is where my friend from Adamawa failed to see. Please, I wanted to raise this issue about self-determination because Mr. Yinka raised it. Mr. President today make a clear statement about Palestine's self-determination. In 1980, Nigeria supported Sahrawi Arab Republic of Morocco for self-determination.
We have the last caller on the line, Christopher from Gabon. Christopher, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Please go ahead. Good afternoon.
Please, I want to thank the media you people are using to talk, to share all the viewers all over the world. Please, what I want to say that the issue of Kano is not something brutal. It's not something that Nigerian government should take with force, because Kano is highly intellectual, highly experienced. Because something that all the world wanted to see what happened and what Buhari were going to do with Kano. But fighting, go take all the ammunition and all those things to bring to East to go and fight for the Easterners is not the solution. The solution is so shallow or fight solution on dialogue on the table. It's what I want to talk. But if you are here, Buhari wanted to go for war for East. I want to let him know that Nigeria, all the Igbos, I want to let him know that all the Igbos are all over the world.
All right, Christopher, thank you so much for your contribution. We are running out of time. So quickly,
quickly. I was talking about,
wrap up now.
I wanted to talk about the example of raising flag and burning flag. Today, Catalonia is raising its flag.
And the Spanish government is standing their grounds against it.
Of course, that is it. But there's no, hold on. But there's no military incursion into Catalonian territory. Then calling what Nnamdi Kanu is doing as insurrection is going against the definition, even grammatical. Not to talk about international law.
Gentlemen, we are running out of time. So your final takes, Alistair.
And if anything, if Kanu does anything wrong, there is the civil authority to arrest him, like Inka said. The matter is in court. Take him to court and prove your case.
Every society has its own challenges and has its own method of, so long as it is lawful and within the ambit of the law. Nobody is waging a war against the Easterners or the Igbos. The government, they are just like when they went in to kill Okisi Kanku and everybody supported him and hailed the army. Now there is some element of terrorism among the peace-loving Nigerians in the Southeast. Therefore, the president has a right to go in there and rescue the situation before it generates. And I'm in full support of the president. So long as innocent lives are not being killed.
Please,
my last point is that what it stands for engagement. If we start the process of restructuring Nigeria today, separatists like Nnamdi Kanu will become irrelevant.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
Yeah.
And that's how we wrap up the show today. Thanks for watching. I'm Veronica Danik Poi. Enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.